Hi guys, I'm Jane Lou and this is part 2 of a series of videos where I talk about my business journey so far, of how I went from someone who hated my corporate job to then starting my own business, and now that business makes over $30 million a year and employs over 40 people. So part 1, I talk about how my first business failed and the 5 main lessons that I learned from it. The link is below if you haven't seen it. And if you are continuing on from part 1, welcome back. So let's get started and let's talk about how I started this business with no money at all.
Help me, I'm poor.
So after my first business failed, which I had already quit my job for, I had no other options but to start another business. It was in the middle of the global financial crisis, so it wasn't like I was going to be able to get a job easily anywhere else. But I had no idea what business to start. I had never felt so lost in my life. It was seriously rock bottom. To make things worse, I had no idea how to tell my parents. Why was this so bad? Well, let me paint you a picture. So my parents left all of their family and their friends to immigrate with me when I was 8 from China to Australia so that they could bring me to a land of opportunities so that I could have a good job and financial security. When we came here, we didn't speak a word of English, and my parents left their well-paid jobs and had to work as cleaners and factory workers to make ends meet. And then me, as the studious only child of an immigrant family, I worked very hard to achieve all the goals that they had set out for me and I had set out for myself. So I went to a selective school, which is an academic-based high school in New South Wales. I got a 99.45 out of 100 UAI, which is like an SAT's equivalent. I studied a Bachelor of Commerce at the University of New South Wales. I got a corporate job at KPMG, a Big Four accounting firm, lined up for myself before I even graduated high school. I mean, I played 8th grade piano. I was literally ticking all the boxes for being a model Chinese daughter. Cut to next minute, I'm unemployed, my business failed, I'm in debt, and it's in the middle of the global financial crisis. I mean, how was I going to tell them that I'd given up everything that I've been working towards, that they've sacrificed for, that I've blown it all away, I've stuffed it up, and now it's just going to go and start another business, especially given that I had such a terrible track record. There was only one logical option: to not tell them, which is exactly what I did. Unfortunately, I was still living at home at the time, which made it really difficult. So I had to pretend for the first 6 months to still go to work. And I would just put on my suit and tell them that I was working at Ernst Young. So let me run you through a typical day. I'd have to get up early, and let me tell you, there's nothing worse than having to get up early anyway when you're unemployed. So get up early, put on my suit, and I'd have to have breakfast with my parents, get the bus into the city with my mom because she worked in the city as well. And I was just walking around carrying an empty laptop bag for most of the day. Initially, I spent my days wandering the streets, going from cafe to cafe, just trying to figure shit out. And then I'd try to go to the state library, which is where I used to study out of during high school. And I tried to discipline myself to sit behind a computer to think of business ideas. This, FYI, does not work. There's something quite unexpected happened. With my first business, we spent most of our marketing efforts and monies on PR, which I had already deemed to be useless, especially given now that the business had failed. But all those press clippings that we generated, which I plastered all over Facebook, gave my friends the impression that I knew a lot about retail and marketing. So one of my friends actually introduced me to another girl who wanted to start an online store as well. So one night, and we had only caught up a few times by this stage, but over a few too many glasses of red wine, we came up with the name and concept behind Showpo. And that was back in September 2010. So besides having to pretend to go to work in my suit every day, I had another major problem to overcome, and that was money. So I was 24 at the time and in over $60,000 of debt. So it's around $30,000 of debt from my uni degree, $18,000 from breaking a cadetship work contract, $10,000 from the first business that failed, and a few $1,000s from traveling. So definitely not a good financial position to be in regardless, but especially not when you're trying to start a business. From the get-go, I ruled out getting investors and getting a bank loan because I wanted to put all my energy and efforts into working on the business rather than working on getting investment. Plus, of course, I had a terrible track record, so I was never going to succeed in getting investment or a loan anyway. So I knew from the start that I could only achieve this by doing a lot of hustling. So the major startup costs for an online store are inventory, websites, warehousing and freight, and marketing. So for inventory, we managed to strike up a consignment deal with a supplier, which meant that we didn't have to pay for the stock until after it was sold. This is a major money saver because inventory is what really ties up your cash flow. And so funnily enough, I didn't even know about this term consignment until I learned it during Fatboy Group that consignment was an actual thing that some suppliers were happy to work with. And then there's the website. So the night that we got drunk and came up with the idea for Showpo, I was so eager that I came home and just built the website overnight. I did it on Big Cartel, which is really easy to use. And so for anything I didn't know how to do, I just Googled how to use HTML. And I mean, HTML is not coding, so it's super easy. But I actually learned a thing or two back in the days from MySpace. I was one of those really lame people with a really pimped up MySpace account. I had, various photos, slideshows, and personalized music, customized background, polls, the works. So freight's easy because it's pay as you go. But for warehousing, well, at first we used my business partner's office because she had one set up for her other business already. And then I moved it to my boyfriend's apartment. Now, my boyfriend and I, we met on exchange in Sweden. And so and that was over a year ago at this point in time. And so he was moving down from Brisbane to Sydney to start a super serious job working in investment banking. And he just rented his own first apartment. Now, so this is big life changes for him. And we never had a let's move in together conversation after spending a year plus doing long distance. I just showed up and just never left because I didn't want to keep going with this whole fake going to work charade with my parents. So, I mean, we still live together, so it's fine. But, and then one day he came home to find every inch of his tiny apartment covered in stock. So yeah, warehousing wasn't an issue. But my biggest win was definitely marketing through Facebook. And besides inventory, marketing is the biggest cost to any online fashion store. So back when I was working at Ernst Young, I would spend all my time on Facebook. Sorry, most of my time. Not all of it, let's be honest. So I would actually have Facebook permanently open on my screen, which you're not allowed to, by the way. And I would just Alt-tab to an Excel spreadsheet that I was pretending to be working on when someone would walk past me. And so I was definitely what you would consider a Facebook addict. And this probably explains why I was so terrible at my job as an accountant. Anyway, so it's funny to think that the time that I wasted on Facebook allowed me to understand the platform inside out. So this was back in the time where the big companies didn't fully utilize social media properly. They either thought that it was a fad and didn't really put much into it, or they simply didn't know how to. I mean, it seemed like they were either delegating to a junior marketing person or outsourcing to an agency. But during this time, Facebook allowed me to build up the Showpo brand at a very fast pace and at a very low cost. It's funny to think that I used to have to hide my obsession with social media, and now I'm being commended for having almost 3 million followers. It just really goes to show the power of working on something that you're truly passionate about. So anyway, I had my major costs covered. But mind you, I still had to get a job, part-time job as a receptionist at a laser hair removal clinic just to make some money to tie me over. Now, I don't think it's necessary to quit your job when you're trying to start a business, especially when you're waiting for momentum to pick up. But it is important to know when to quit because there is an opportunity cost to your time. So anyway, the owner of a clinic was a bitch of a woman. I mean, she made a really demoralizing time for me. this was at a time where my friends were, all getting promoted at work, and I felt like I was going backwards in my life. And, I'd come in early to vacuum, and she's that person that would walk around and tell you where you've missed a spot. I mean, the positive takeaway of all this was that she taught me what kind of boss to never be. So times were definitely tough back then. I mean, I managed to kind of hack my way into not spending on some of the major expenses and, got a job where necessary. And to fill in the gaps, I put everything on my credit card. And with the money that we made, we reinvested it back into the business to grow the business. Tune in for the next part 3, where I'll talk about some of the major obstacles that I came across in the early stages of the business and how we overcame it.